Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Game number 2 here in our PvT match from IEM Katowice. Make sure you go and check out game number 1 if you haven't already. I'm not sure what you're doing here if you haven't, but hopefully you enjoyed game number 1. A very decisive, very patient play from our Protoss up at the top left-hand side of Heavy Rain. Here he is. It's from Team Liquid, Mana. And we'll see what he's going to do here, because in the previous game his opponent displayed a lot of aggression. Down here at the bottom right hand side from AT Gaming, it is uThermal, who, as we mentioned, just sort of he was very aggressive and continued to try and put the pressure on, like, despite the fact that Storm and Colossi was done. I kind of feel like he kind of knew that he was in a very tough position, given that Mana had made his way up to Colossi and Storms. It was going to be very hard for uThermal, especially on such a big map, to be able to keep up the pressure that he was cornered into. Like, as we were saying, he was very much going very heavily on that aggression right at the start of the game, trying to keep Mana locked in on 2 bases. But unfortunately, because his economy kind of fell behind at that point, uThermal was not able to keep up with the upgrades that Mana had, and also be able to keep up with the counter aggression that Mana was putting on with his Warp Prism. So we did see uThermal have to tap out pretty quickly there after some of his units went astray and got lost in the storms there from Mana. But we'll see what happens here. Heavy Rain is an interesting map. Of course, it can be quite troublesome for Terran players when dealing with blink strategies. So we'll have to keep an eye out on the tech that Mana is going for. At the moment, we've just got 1 assimilator coming up. We're not going crazy with a double straight away, but we'll see, because this can be a map where Protoss like to proxy things. They sometimes like to proxy a Stargate over here, or perhaps in a random position in the middle, or even down at the side as well. You can see all sorts of things when it comes to proxy oracles, because everyone loves those guys. They do a lot of damage. But as we said, also blink can be a common strategy that is utilized on this map. There is so much surface area that can be attacked into. We've got like an M shape that you could jump into from all these kinds of angles. If you somehow make it down the back, if your opponent's stuck on one base, you can come in from this angle as well. But it can just be really difficult to deal with. And what I've started to see, which I really liked, was Terran players are starting to build their racks like down here, instead of putting them in the normal spot, which tends to be over here. So we'll see if uThermal's going to do something like that, because that's always a good thing to keep your tech labs protected, because you don't want the Protoss player blinking in and then destroying your tech lab while Stim is researching. And now what we can see here from Mana is something else, which is just a small little thing, like the barracks positioning, but this is a small thing. When it gets to around about the 340 mark, if you have a probe still out of the map, that's when you can send it back in, because the Reaper will already be across the map trying to harass your own probes. And Mana, as you can see, does lose a single probe, but he does get a little bit of vision on what's going on. He's just scouting through right now. This probe has been able to put a little bit of taser fire on that 1 SCV that's there, building a second command center. But if Mana, as long as he gets out of this, yeah, there he goes, he's now going to get out of there and have a quick look at what his opponent is now doing. So we see 1 Rax with the reactor. We've got a factory also being built right now. So he's got as much information from scouting as his opponent does, because uThermal has used that Reaper to have a look inside the main base, seeing that there is no real tech just as of yet. But interestingly, only 2 pylons, and the reason for that is actually that Mana has built the 3rd pylon out here at the natural base. This probe is looking to be a little bit sneaky, perhaps looking to hide some tech down there. I'm not actually sure if Mana was, he may have been planning something there, like perhaps a Twilight down there, or perhaps a Stargate down there, or just something a little bit more sneaky with that pylon, or perhaps just going for some crazy mind games. I'm not too sure. But he does build a robo down here now. It is going to be in a relatively safe position. Most Terrans will tend to scan the main base so they can see what tech the Protoss is going for. So Mana probably hoping that he won't have to let that robo be scouted just yet. But back on the Terran side of the map, we can see that uThermal has jumped up. He's gone for the 1-1-1 kind of opening at the moment, very similar to that old school build we used to see all the time in Wings of Liberty. And with the natural command center just about to be finished up over here, uThermal will be able to boost up his economy and really start looking to put some pressure on, as the initial part of the game will be quite favourable to him. With all these Marines out, he's going to look to try and snipe off this Stalker. Almost gets it, or almost gets some of the shields down, but unfortunately the Stalker will escape for now. But I mean, that's a pretty... This kind of opening is very standard, so I'll be surprised if uThermal could get some damage done here. Mana should be quite used to this kind of thing. This Marine, Mine, and then it should be a single medevac. Yeah, the single medevac is just popping out right now. Is a very common kind of strategy that was utilized during the initial parts of Heart of the Swarm in TVP. What you want to do is you send your Marines across. Your Widowmine can hobble its way along as well, and you put the Widowmine like normally in a position somewhere like this, just somewhere near the ramp. Whether you ferry it up to the main base and put it up near the top of the ramp or keep it at the bottom, your Marines stay on one side. You try and either force out the photon overcharge or snipe down a couple of probes or something like that, just so that you can get some good damage done. And I mean, it can work quite a lot, but as we mentioned, most Protoss players are pretty okay with defending against this kind of thing now. So Mana's got a few Stalkers inside the main. We've got the Mothership Core protecting the natural. But uThermal's going to do it the sneaky way. He's going to bring everything up in towards the main base, including these two mines. They're going to burrow just near the ramp, I'd say. Down goes one mine. Will we get the second one in a good position? It looks like Mana is going to have to be very cautious here. He needs to be very careful about where he uses the photon overcharge. You don't want that being used on the Nexus that isn't going to take as much damage. But uThermal doing some impressive damage here. Takes out the Observer, nicely done. In fact, takes out two Observers. That's really, really nice. So this means that Mana has no detection at the moment, so he's going to have to spend some more time on the Robo building another Observer. So that's pretty nice stuff there from uThermal. I'm not sure if these mines are going to get another good shot off. Like, they may catch a single probe or two, but I don't think they're going to get too much more than that. In fact, yeah, the Observer comes along, and down goes Widowmine number 1. Final shot from Widowmine number 2. Nicely done. One of the final shots. I think there's like just a few seconds left on that photon overcharge, but either way, nicely timed out. Probably like 3, 2, 1, and then that's it. Yep, there you go. We had a look at the clock at the exact time that went out, but yeah, there's nice defense from Mana. Didn't take too much damage, as we can see. He lost 10 workers in total, which is a fair amount, but he's got his double chrono, he's got his double nexus. He can crank out the workers and get back up to a reasonable position right now, so not too much damage. But what we will see from Mana is a very similar build to the previous game, where we have the double forge, going to be getting that 1-1 on the upgrades. We've got the first Colossus just popping out as well. It'll be interesting to see if Mana's going to go for just a straight 2-base push, or if he's going to perhaps just play this very safe style. This is very kind of like a cover all of your bases kind of style, where we'll probably see that Twilight Council go down. Yep, there it is, and then we'll see the Templar Archives shortly after that's completed as well. But he's sort of just making sure that everything is very safe. A nice standard safe build here from Mana. Meanwhile, for uThermal, got a lot of Marines out. We've got their stim is just on the way right now. We do have a single tank here, which I find rather intriguing. But we also have a few more upgrades for our Terran player on the way. His +1 to weapons is just about completed. We'll see the +2. This is, again, a very similar build to last game for the Terran player. It's just not the same in terms of aggression. So I'm expecting that we'll see Mana probably push across with a big 2-base push at some point. Probably near the point where he has 2-2. But both these players will probably look for a 3rd base very soon. Mana moves out, just cleans up a couple of those Marines in the middle of the map. And uThermal, he is going to continue tank production. Interesting. So he's going to have a few tanks out, which they throw a little bit of a weird mix into dealing with a Terran. Of course, normally most Protoss players will say, it's a tank, who really cares about that? I've got a single Immortal, I've got some Blink Stalkers, I've got some Charge Lots, something like that. You know, there's like several different ways that you can deal with the siege tanks. But you know, when you throw just a couple in with a much more standard bio mix, it can get a little bit weird. So we'll see how Mana's going to deal with that. As long as he has a few Colossi out, he should be okay. We now see that uThermal now looking to come across and try and get inside the main base, but I doubt that's going to happen. Mothership Core, a couple of Colossi, and some basic units on the ground are going to be here to defend against this incoming attack. One single Marine has made its way all the way into the main, and is now going to try and target down some of these units, which is a little bit interesting. He's going to get one. He gets one probe. He'll be quite happy with that. Meanwhile, up at the top, Mana just keeping an eye, a very deadly eye on these two medevacs that are here. You can see that he's just sort of, you know, leaving the mothership core there, just saying, alright, that's cool, we can play around here, I can just wait here all day. Oh, in fact, that's kind of cool. Gets a hallucinated Phoenix down to try and force the units to move away from their auto-retreat AI, but unfortunately, uThermal is already on the case and he knows what's going on, and he's going to go for a big push here. We've got 3 tanks, a lot of Marines, they've got their +1, their +1 armor is also just about to kick in, but Mana still has 4 Colossi, but this could be very interesting because of the positioning here. Now, if now, one thing that we do see that is kind of missing for Mana at the moment is his charge, and if he had charge, I'd say the battle would definitely go his way, but unfortunately, due to the fact that that is still a long way away, he's going to have a little bit of a difficult time dealing with the tanks that are here, as long as uThermal is positioning these units correctly and making sure that he can spread them out a little bit. You don't necessarily need to do massive, like, you know, anti-Baneling splits against Colossus, but it's always good. Oh wow, and that blink actually may have hurt Mana quite a lot. Loses quite a few of the Stalkers, and in fact they did not get any shots off on the Vikings. Colossus number 1 goes down. Colossus number 2 is also near death, and down it goes. Mana in a huge amount of trouble. I think that blink may have cost him this game here, and you know, it's pretty much literally blink and you're dead right now for Mana. Whoops in a DT to try and save the day, but I'm not sure that's going to get too much damage done. A couple more DTs are now roaming their way across the map, but the tanks have sieged up inside. The natural Colossus goes down. Another DT is about to move into detection range, in fact, unfortunately for Mana there. And that is probably it. Mana is going to fall down against this really nicely timed push here from uThermal. The Vikings have done their job, and Mana taps out. Yeah, DT's not able to do too much here. So game number 2 goes the way of our Terran player from the Netherlands. He is going to move into a 1-1 situation. We'll move into game 3 in just a moment. Here, as you can see, 47 damage to bio units, and then the 34 damage against other standard targets. His storms have also been wonderful, just spreading them out across the battlefield, doing really nicely there. And for minigun, he's been sticking with a much more